time. She's alive! Alive!
Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of
The bride of...
Alternate Ending.
Hello, ghouls and goblins, like totally dudes. I am your very Californian ghost, Brennan Klein, and with me is, as always, is the totally tubular Timothy Brayton, who is also very Californian, as you can tell by the way that we are speaking very Californianly. Hello, Tim. How are you?
Hey, dude, how you doing?
Hell yeah! I was hoping you would yes and my
I
bit.
can do very little in a Californian accent other than the word dude, so...
Well, no, that was perfect because, I mean, we will get into it, I am sure, but we are talking about the 1991 movie Popcorn today, a movie set in California but filmed entirely in Jamaica, and you can tell.
I was going to ask the question, not to spoil, you are someone who lives in Southern California, Brennan.
I am, and I was born and raised here also.
Do you routinely just see reggae bands wandering the streets, as seems to be the case in the world of Popcorn?
I would not say that I have ever encountered a rogue free-range reggae band.
Okay.
But yes, we are continuing our 3-month series on pre-Scream 1990s slashers. We kicked off with The Dentist last month. We are now continuing with Popcorn, or as I accidentally typed in on my GarageBand file, Poopcorn.
Well, that remains to be seen, doesn't it?
It does remain to be seen. But this is a movie that neither of us had seen before. Am I correct?
I had not.
I haven't seen
film
it.
before.
Okay,
Correct.
great. Yeah. So this has been what's exciting to me about this month is that I think we've mainly picked titles that are complete blank spots for both of us. And I think the slashers of the early 1990s are maybe a blank spot for a reason. But I loved The Dentist, and we will see if maybe Popcorn's a great movie. Let's find out.
Let's indeed.
You watched it more recently than I did, so I was hoping you could kind of guide the plot synopsis a bit.
I can certainly try to do so with the caveat that I somehow managed to... I was struggling with character names in this one.
Oh, what if we pretended characters don't have any names? That would be great for me.
How about we start with the log line version of this?
Okay.
Which is, in Southern California, there is a college with a film department. A film production
UC
department.
Ocean View.
Yes. And as you would expect from a Southern California film school, nobody likes it and it's strapped for cash. So the students, of whom we meet several, but the sort of main one, very clearly set out as the main one, is a young woman named Maggie, played by Jill Sholin, I'm guessing is how her name is pronounced.
I think so. Sorry, can I jump in really quick?
You may.
Jill Sholin, who by the way is in Winona Ryder drag in this movie.
Sure is.
She is I would say a minor Scream queen. She was in The Stepfather. She was in When a Stranger Calls Back, and she was in Cutting Class, and another one I can't remember right now. But she was kicking around in the late 80s, early 90s.
I have actually seen her in at least 3 movies prior to this, because I've seen Cutting Class, I've seen The Stepfather, and I've seen the 1989 Robert Englund Phantom of the Opera.
That's the one that slipped my mind.
Yes.
I wonder why.
I cannot imagine. And I will say that I did not register that I'd seen this person before, so take that as you will.
I think that's fair. But yeah, she's not a Jamie Lee Curtis, shall we say, but maybe she's a Lori Lathine.
And I think we will have... I think there's something we must discuss about her performance when we get to the point that we're discussing performances. But right now we're setting out the parameters of the plot. So Maggie is our kind of focal film student, but she's got some buddies on the film department. And they've decided in order to raise money for their struggling film studies program, or film production program, they are going to host a horror movie marathon at the nearby abandoned theater. And... They get very excited about doing this. They assemble footage. I will honestly tell you, I was slightly confused whether they were finding old movies or shooting new versions of old movies. I gather it's the latter. but I think I kind of missed that part of this
What?
film.
I don't know what you mean. Oh, sorry. You mean like the behind the scenes, like not the characters, but the filmmakers.
No. The characters themselves.
No, I got the sense that they were doing like repertory screenings of like old William Castle schlock, like that kind of.
I think that's where I landed. I walked into the film assuming that they were shooting their own projects for this marathon, which is what I think I got confused.
Okay, no, I never got that sense when I was watching it.
Okay. I got mixed up. So point being, they have some old movies.
This is a diffuse movie. It's hard to really follow sometimes.
It is not the world's... Again, I know Maggie's name primarily because at one point someone called her Maggie, and I was like, wait a minute, I thought her name was Sarah. So it stood out to me that her name was Maggie. Anyway, there is a Sarah involved. But so the film students gather some old movies. They throw together a marathon. One of the pieces of footage they encounter is a fragment of a film which they discover was the final project of a psychopathic film director who his final project was basically to create the first 2/3 of a movie, and then for the end of it, at a live screening, he killed his family and set the theater on fire, and they found the fragment that somehow survived the fire, and this is very scary, and they don't know what to do with it. And flash forward a little bit, which is exactly how the film treats it, and the marathon is about ready to start. So they start showing movies, and while they are showing movies, someone starts killing the film students and the people attached to them, such as their professor. And this happens while the footage of the old movies is showing, and sometimes the kills seem to directly echo what's going on screen, and sometimes they just kind of sort of do that. But basically that's the movie, is split between we're sitting in the theater watching people watching fake old B movies, or we're elsewhere in the theater watching people get killed.
Yes, and I would say that even more specifically, like the kills that are tied in with the movies are tied in with the William Castle-esque gimmicks,
yes.
That are bringing the movies to life. There is like a smell-o-vision situation.
There's a smell-o-vision, which isn't a gimmick that Castle personally used, but that's the third film. The first two films are a 3D movie about a giant mosquito that kills people, and they bring in a giant mosquito prop at the climax, which is the gimmick specifically of The Haunting of Hill House, where there's a giant, House on Haunted Hill. I can't imagine why I got those two movie titles confused. They both exist. But there's a giant skeleton that swoops in at the final act of that movie. And then the other one is a movie about someone who is electrified, like an electrified killer who shocks people to death, and they put buzzers in the seats, which is, of course, the gimmick from William Castle's The Tingler.
Yeah. So the stench gimmick, I mean, I know like John Waters had a scratch and sniff thing at one point. Was that... I'm sure there was a progenitor of that idea.
There was a brief attempt to do smell-o-vision in the 50s. It was, I think, like a 2-movie long gimmick. It was, for very obvious reasons, not something people wanted.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so that's kind of the movie we're dealing with. There's a lot of okay, so this group of characters, which we have trouble keeping the names telling what their names are. I have trouble telling what their deal is too, because they all seem like, like if you look at a frame of this movie or watch the first scene of the characters gathered, you're like, oh, this is one of those groups of characters where they're all like one-note archetypes. Mm-hmm. They're all stereotypical movie characters. But then once the movie gets going and actually introduces them, none of them quite click into an archetype. They're all like halfway to something, except for the character played by Yvonne from Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Kelly Jo Minter.
Yes,
she very clearly is playing the black character in a horror movie.
Which, yes, I was happy when she was on screen because I could tell her apart from the rest of the cast.
There is also a character who is in a wheelchair and he's kind of annoying, and I was like, maybe he's like Franklin from Texas Chainsaw. But other than that, everyone's like, is he the prankster? But everyone's kind of the prankster, and it's like, which white guy is this? It's just it's troubling.
It's difficult to tease them apart, and they all sort of fall into the same archetype, which is over-enthusiastic film snob. And you can sort of tease apart their personalities because some of them seem to feel like they are film snobs because they love B-movies, and some feel like they are film snobs for art cinema who are deigning to do this junk movie thing. And that's like the closest I could come to separating their personalities.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if it was better realized, that would be a really interesting dynamic.
If that was what the film was, as opposed to, I suspect something that the actors were doing even more so than the screenplay was doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's a little bit of film culture kind of bleeding around the edges of like, this might be what annoying film students are doing in the late 1980s. Like, they're doing a lot of like thumbs up, thumbs down, Ebert and Siskel and Ebert kind of stuff. Right. And I was like, I bet that was going on a lot in film school.
I bet.
So I liked it when that bled in, but it didn't happen a lot. Spending time with these characters was kind of exhausting.
Yeah, and we'll get to all sorts of places, but I will certainly say this movie felt to me like an excuse to shoot the new old footage, and whatever movie they could figure out how to justify doing that was just a movie they decided to make.
It feels very much like that because the pastiche movies that they are playing, which you broke down, they're, with one exception, very, very fun, very, very charming, and quite accurate to a type of B movie. It's a good exaggeration of what that type of B movie is, of what each type they're going for.
Exactly. And I don't know if you did any reading up on the production history of this movie.
I know I don't know the production history behind these fake movies, at least, if you have information.
So what I seem to have teased out, and who can say the internet is full of liars, this film was initially put into production under writer-director Alan Ormsby, who takes a pseudonym for the screenplay. He's credited as Todd Hackett. He was replaced as director by Mark Harrier. Apparently, the reason he was replaced in week 3 of shooting was that he was pouring attention onto the fake movies and was behind schedule and wasn't apparently very interested in shooting the framework story. So my sense
would I be.
No, my sense is that the pastiche part was him and the plot part was Mark Harrier. And I will also say at the same time that they swapped Ormsby and Harrier, that's when Jill Schoelen came in. She was actually a late addition to the cast. She replaced the initial leading lady. And I think that is a helpful fun fact to keep in mind in terms of parsing what's going on with her performance.
Yes, because to my understanding, she was not on set with a lot of the actors a lot of the time that she was shooting.
Yeah, my sense is that a lot of her footage that we see was like dropped into existing footage.
Yeah, kind of a Arrested Development season 4 style performance. Yeah, no, I think that probably makes a lot of sense. Because it's not really the point of popcorn, but it also kind of is. I want to talk about those pastiche movies a little bit more.
Yes, definitely.
I was wondering if you had a ranking of them, at least one that's in the back of your head.
So I have some. Before we get to the ranking, I'd like to kind of toss out something that I found cumbersome to get around, and perhaps you can offer your insights. So we have the 3 films here. Mosquito, which is the 3D film about a killer mosquito, The Attack of the Amazing Electrified Man, and The Stench, that's the Odorama film, which is a Japanese import. And it felt weird to me to suddenly cross streams like that. We're doing William Castle schlock, and then we're doing Japanese schlock, which exists, but is a very different... A Japanese film would not have a fourth wall breaking gimmick, I guess is what confused me.
Yes, I completely agree. The Stench was the one that I was saying, with one exception. They're like pretty sharp satires, because the way that the movie existed in this world just didn't make a lot of sense. And I was like, what is this even like? I mean, there are stench or like there's. I mean, it if I'm thinking of a Japanese thing that's about a smell, I'm thinking about Junji Ito's Gyo. But I think that came out after this. And
if I'm
I mean,
if I'm thinking of a Japanese movie about a smell, I regret to say that I'm thinking of the 2011 zombie ass Toilet of the Dead.
Oh God, yeah. So it's a little popcorn's ahead of its time.
Yes.
But I was like, okay, so of this era with this kind of thing, I was like, what are they doing? Matango? Like, what are they trying to go for? It didn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
And
I feel that it's related to that. It seems to me we saw much less of that film than the other two.
We certainly did, and I was not sad about that.
Yeah.
And
also no real tie-in killings. Not nearly to the way that there are for the other movies.
No, I guess they really kind of were giving up at that point, and I think they just wanted to wrap up the movie because they were like, "Oh, we've hit 65 minutes. Let's just get going."
But yeah. So in terms of ranking, I have The Stench as the third for that reason. I think the footage we see is a good pastiche. It captures something about the way that Japanese color stocks in the 60s looked, so that's cool. But it's confusingly motivated, so I'm going to rank that one third. I can tell you that of the other two, I would probably rather watch the film Mosquito, if it really existed, than the film The Attack of the Amazing Electrified Man. But in terms of quality of pastiche, I think that they are very evenly matched. I'd still probably rank Mosquito just barely above for that reason.
Ooh, okay. See, I agree with you about what I would watch, because when they were announcing the movies ahead of time, I was like, okay, Electrified Man, not that interested. But Electrified Man does edge out Mosquito for me, for a couple of reasons. They had some very fun kind of like Wes Craven's shocker gimmicks almost. There's like a part where he's fighting some like criminals and he steps on a knife and that like conducts the electricity, and they have some ideas there that they're playing with, and that movie also has the best kind of like Rocky Horror moment where the audience is reacting to what's happening on screen. Because the female love interest in the movie is like, "Kiss me, Dick," and they're like, "Her what?" And I was like, I just really liked that kind of holistic approach to being in a film festival screening.
I will also say I feel like with Mosquito they were just trying to make a generic stupid monster movie. With Electrified Man, I think they were actually having fun with how would we make this movie if this is the movie we were making.
I agree. Yeah, because Mosquito, it has some great pastiche, especially with the the hero and the lady scientist kind of falling in love and those sequences. But yeah, I just felt Attack of the Amazing Electrified Man. It felt like they were most interested in that movie, and so was I.
That's probably a good way of putting it. That's probably a very good way of putting it.
But both of those movies, great. I had a great time whenever we were watching clips of them, and I love getting to hear about fictional movies and TV shows and spend a little bit more time with them than just like one clip. So that was servicing what I would want from a movie like this, at least.
But so it sounds though like we are probably in agreement then about the fact that whether it is the quote unquote point of the movie or not, the reason to see popcorn, or the thing that is best about popcorn, shall we say, are these pastiches.
Certainly, and I would certainly say the thing that is best and also most on purpose about the movie.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Because I think the thing I liked second best is by accident, completely.
Well, should we actually step back for the time being, at least, from the pastiche and talk about the movie itself? Because the bulk of this movie is not the pastiche footage. The pastiche footage is, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes total, maybe, of the 90-minute running time.
God, maybe. Yeah, I mean, do we have to? I mean, yes, we should. We should.
I will say this. I'll just tip my hand. I did not like popcorn, but I think popcorn is interesting to have existed as early as February of 1991. So I do think it will be worth.
Yes. Okay. I think you're right. It's just such a kind of cheap scattershot thing. I don't think it does not lack its own charms in this part of the movie, but it wasn't delivering for me. But what did you find interesting about it, given its timing?
I think when we approached this topic for the podcast as pre-Scream, it was definitely I think we both had in mind. We just meant chronologically situated prior to the release of Scream. which is
Yep.
what one would mean. This film actually feels like a prototype Scream to me. It is less effective, to say the least. But it feels like the impulse that Scream grows out of is somewhere in this project, very murkily expressed, but just in terms of we are going to both celebrate and make fun of not merely this kind of movie, but the culture of people who watch this kind of movie. Like that's something that feels new to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is a stepping stone. It's I wouldn't go so far as to call it a missing link, but I do think it's somewhere between, because there are movies that were kind of doing something like this in the 80s, but not in a Scream way. But it's like, we'll set a horror movie in the world of horror movies, and like that's not an idea that nobody had before.
No, but
it's a double negative.
I guess I'm thinking more in terms of like the scenes at the beginning when we're just watching them be obnoxious film students remind me of especially the scene from Scream 2 where they're talking about sequels.
That is a great point. Like, yeah, it's interesting because they're not really aware that they are in a horror movie, but the movie is aware of it.
Yes.
In it, if that makes any sense. So it does kind of, you're right, it does kind of draw connections between the two. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about that while I was watching the movie, but you're definitely right.
Yeah, and then the other thing, and I think also this is perhaps a mistake. Perhaps the movie did not know it was doing this. But I feel like I'm onto something. So let me feel my way through this. Explicitly, the movie is a pastiche of 50s and 60s horror. And in the 50s and 60s, horror, particularly in the kind of William Castle-esque drive-through man, I mean, not William Castle himself, he actually mostly made straight horror films, but horror had largely retrenched into sci-fi horror in the 50s and 60s, and we're seeing 3 sci-fi horror films, right? Like, the film kind of teases out, I think the marquee of the theater says sci-fi and horror marathon.
Oh, I don't recall.
Which is sort of immaterial, but like we're seeing a certain type of horror film that was very much the mode of the genre in the 60s. The film itself feels kind of deliberately to me like a pastiche of 70s and 80s horror, in that it's grabbing a bunch of different points. You mentioned the one character who reminded you of Franklin. I latched onto that as well. It feels like a lot of the bits and pieces are bits and pieces that have been plucked from various slasher and grindhousey type horror films. And again, I don't know if they meant to do this, because if they meant to do it, they didn't do it very well. It feels almost like, so the pastiche of old horror is in the on-screen fake movies. The pastiche of new horror is the film itself. Because I think the film is being pitched as it's a horror comedy. It's not a serious slasher film. It's very goofy.
It's kind of almost trauma-y at certain points.
Ooh, trauma-y is good. Yes.
Yeah, like where it's like lightly farcical or lightly surreal, perhaps.
Yes.
But handling everything with a very light touch. It's never. If it's supposed to be scary, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
But I do not think they tried to do that at all.
The thing, and now I'm going to skip ahead even further. The killer, when we see the killer, is someone, and this is also, I think, a lift from Texas Chainsaw, is someone who wears not human faces, replicas of human faces as masks.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's a little theater of blood, like a little other things.
But I just mean that it's a sort of Leatherface-y character. But one of the things that happens is this character sometimes, especially after they've been unveiled and they're starting to like taunt the living people, the remaining characters, the edges of the mask are not always affixed to this person's head. So you see like latex ears flapping back and forth. And that's like a very silly image. And I think the movie knows it's silly. And it is deflating what could otherwise be, I think, a fairly gross image. I mean, we're seeing someone with no skin on their face, right? And I feel like the movie has kind of very deliberately done this silly this very silly execution of that idea in a way to make clear that we should be having fun and not we should be feeling scared.
Yeah. I'm interested in that because I really liked that image. That's the image I'm going to take with me from the movie.
I think the killer is a very great piece of makeup.
Yeah. I think that for me maybe even almost borders or like is maybe the thing in the movie that best hits the border between horror and comedy, because there is something to me about like the fact that this guy's face is just wrong. There are multiple layers to it and they're not cohering together properly.
Sure.
And yes, it is goofy how they're flapping around, but there's something about like the kind of the skin on the sides of the face, including the ears, kind of like being peeled away. Like there's something there. It's not scary, but it's macabre.
It's very macabre. That's a very good way of putting it. Which was the title of a William Castle film. So
what do you know?
Keeps circling back in.
He made his fair share of them.
Yes.
He did Straight Jacket, didn't he?
He did do Straight Jacket, yes.
I liked that movie. Anyway,
it's a good picture.
What the fuck were we talking about? Yes, the killer. I think the design of the killer is interesting. I am not avoiding saying the killer's name because of spoilers, but merely because I have forgotten what his name is. But he's one of the spoiler alert. He's one of the students. He's trying to get revenge on Jill Sholin for blah 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 stuff to do with her evil nightmares, and she was actually involved as a child with the film director who murdered his family. He got burned as part of that event. But it's kind of like it's like a Jim Carrey. It's a role that needed a Jim Carrey in it. And he couldn't hit that level of energy. I wanted him to be a little more than he was. But the look was very good.
No, the look is good. I mean, it gets, I think, to my sort of, I think we've even touched on this. The acting in this film is not helping it, I don't think.
No.
And certainly, I think his performance is one of the ones where that's more like clear because, as you say, he does need, I wouldn't have thought of Jim Carrey. That's a really great comparison to make.
Thank you. Although we've seen him play a villain when he was the Riddler, and I don't think that was great. So who knows?
Who knows? Well, a Jim Carrey type, not specifically Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
But
someone who's like big and rubbery and got a lot of energy.
Yeah, I think the character prior to the reveal that he is the killer does not seem to have any sort of like abnormal amount of twitchiness relative to the rest of the teenage cast or the adolescent cast or whatever age they're. And then when he is revealed, he's just suddenly gone like to 110% cackling supervillain, ears flapping, doing goofy voices. And I feel like there needed to be both more modulation and we needed to get into like the joy of this killer sort of taunting his victims by doing these crazy, wacky shenanigans. It's not a joyful performance, I don't think.
No, and so let me tell you. So this is a thing that Scream did better because Matthew Lillard is doing that arc. He is giving you a character who is very energetic, very vibrant, but you aren't sure he's the killer. But that energy transitions very well pre and post reveal. Again, this is not a Scream podcast either, but this is at least part of the universe of what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And one more thing about the killers, because there was this master of disguise thing that they were doing where he was kind of taking on the personas of the various characters that he has killed, kind of like Terror Train. But there's this whole thing at the end where he's explaining how he did it. He's like, here's how I could modulate my voice, and here's how I changed my face. But he wasn't, prior to this, he was not very good at being a master of disguise.
Right.
So I don't know why they bothered explaining it.
I think that maybe that's a relic of when they thought he was going to be better at doing that.
Yeah, maybe. 'Cause there's like this part where he's like pretending to be one of the girls and tricks somebody else into like coming into a certain place or whatever. But he's putting on this high-pitched, shrill voice. It is a comic beat where it's like he's not doing very well, but he's pulling it off. But then at the end, he's like, and here's how I did that. I'm like, no, You didn't. I don't know what you're talking about.
And that's what's, I think, tough about this movie is that it's not just that it's not terribly scary, because I don't think it's trying to really be. I think it wants to be kind of a goofy movie on horror themes. It's not good at being funny.
No, and it really wants to be.
It really wants to be. And I think that's really what hurts it more than not being scary.
Very, very much. Like, there's a character named Mark who's kind of a douchebag fuckboy guy who wants to get with Jill Sholin. And there's this running gag where he keeps getting injured that just never becomes something. Mm-hmm. It never gets there, and it keeps happening.
Yes. No, I found that to be one of the more conspicuously unhappy parts of the movie to watch. I will say, still on the villain and his master of disguise routine, there is one scene that I thought had a little bit of uncanny punch, and I liked it, where he appears in the men's room next to the person he's pretending to be, and they're wearing the same makeup, and it's just a very by-the-book split screen effect. But there's something, the actor, not the actor playing the killer, the actor playing the person being impersonated, who's in this moment playing both roles, did a really good job of distinguishing between those two characters in that beat in a way that I found really kind of unnerving.
Yes, that scene was great. Yes, you're totally right. And there's it's also, I mean, it's a little goofy because they're at the urinal when they're doing this. And the killer is, turning as if he's his reflection, but then he's kind of changing what he's doing, where it's like there's a sinister one and the normal one. You're like, something's wrong here. Yep. But then he like ends up peeing on the other guy's leg, which I didn't hate. I didn't think that was like it didn't really deflate the scene for me, but it's very goofy.
It deflated the scene for me a little bit, although less, I think. Okay. I think not the fact that he was peeing on the guy's leg. I think that works. It's that the film then like just watches the pee on his leg for like 5 seconds. And I found it stretched out that moment too long, and in a way that I don't think, even by potty humor standards, needed to be stretched out that long.
Yeah, very fair. But yes, definitely one of the better scenes in the movie. It's certainly in the not the movie outside the movie, or I don't know. There's the movie within the movie, and then there's the movie around it.
Yes,
it's one of the better scenes of that movie. The thing that is popcorn.
Yes.
Although I gotta say, a lot of the kills are halfway decent.
The kills work. I mean, they are gimmicky, and that is appropriate. And I think the gimmicks are largely appealing as executed.
Yeah. And when you can't do a lot of gore, if you go for a gimmick, it is more interesting.
For sure. But yeah, so like I didn't hate this as a slasher movie. It is certainly very muddled.
Oh, absolutely. And part of that is the behind the scenes kind of catastrophe. It's not a catastrophe, but there was some drama going on. But let's talk about in front of the scenes. We have not really talked about the acting yet, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on the ensemble and particularly Jill Sholin.
It's just kind of bad, but
well, yeah.
I feel like Jill Sholin in particular, and again, she's walked into this part on basically no notice. I don't know if she was if she was even able to match the energy of the rest of the cast. It feels to me like she specifically is playing a much younger, sillier. She's playing like the children's movie version of this story. I feel like it's just very sweet and syrupy and high pitched and goofy. And I mean, maybe that's her trying to do something with the character. I don't know, but it felt very insipid to me. Her approach to the character. Yeah,
and certainly, I mean, we don't. The character's kind of set up as like she's a wannabe filmmaker. She's notating her dreams so she can make them into a movie, and then the dreams end up being her true secret backstory, of course. But I think she really took that kind of like, I'm a college kid with a dream, and she's kind of doing the Disney Channel version of like what that character would be.
I need to see how old she was at this point in time. She was born in 1963, so at this point she's into her late 20s. Certainly she's past 25. So I wonder if she was just a little bit old enough that she was having a hard time accessing that level of innocent, childish naivete.
Maybe so. Yeah, I don't know. That's that's troubling. Yeah, I don't think any of the actors in this movie are giving a particularly good performance. Although there are some actors that are more interesting just by dint of the fact that they are here in this movie.
There are, and I wonder if this is exactly what you're talking about. There are 3 old people in this cast who are like all for real actors that you have seen in great movies or great things.
Yes.
And I found it incredibly destabilizing when they showed up alongside this cluster of college students who were just not very good at all.
Yeah. Okay, well, so we have Dee Wallace, who plays Jill Schoelen's mom.
Yes.
She's the person that I'm probably least shocked to see in a bad horror movie.
I mean, that's real. That's fair. Because by this point, yeah, the same exact year that she was in Popcorn, she was in Alligator 2, The Mutation. So this is where her career got to by 1991.
Yeah, she like when Robert Englund really started just appearing in any bad horror movie that would give him money, Dee Wallace was like, oh, first time? Like she'd been around the block. But yeah, I mean, she was in E.T. She was in The Howling, right?
She's in The Howling, she's in E.T., she's in Cujo.
The Hills Have Eyes, I think.
She is in The Hills Have Eyes, that's right. So
yeah.
Really, kind of schlock, cheap horror is a homecoming for her. I just think of her as E.T.
Yeah, that is true. But that's like also, she was in horror movies that people maybe took more seriously also before the late 80s.
Yeah, that's fair. Because Cujo was like a prestige horror film.
Yeah. And The Hills Have Eyes wasn't, but it's kind of a B-level classic, I think.
I think that's very true. And I assume was by this point as well.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Anyway, so... Yeah, tell me, who are the other 2 people?
So one of the other 2 people, and this is the person who I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because, again, he's sort of someone who just takes the roles that he can get, but he's someone who I would have thought of as like a mainstay from 70s like new Hollywood films. Tony Roberts, who I think is easily best known for being Woody Allen's buddy who kind of hates him in Annie Hall. But he's in Serpico, he's in The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Like, he's in films that you have seen from the 70s, not because they are genre films, but because they are, like, serious and important works. Mm-hmm. And, did a lot of films with Woody Allen up to this point, and then just sort of all of a sudden stops. I guess he's in Amityville 3, somewhere along the way.
Another prestige picture.
I'm actually genuinely unsure if it kind of was, maybe.
Huh.
Because, like, it was directed by Richard Fleischer, who is not just a schmuck.
Okay.
But maybe by 83 he was a schmuck. I don't know. And I think this was by the point where Dino De Laurentiis was kind of kicking around in that franchise. I'm pretty sure that's the case, yeah. But so he's kind of going back and forth, but then basically after 1990 he doesn't do good things anymore. He kind of just does weird junky stuff. But he is certainly someone that I associate with like a kind of more serious mode of filmmaking.
Yeah, certainly.
And he plays the professor, who
he's really just in this movie for quite a while.
He's in this movie of the 3 adults. He's the one I think who gets the most screen time. Although Dee Wallace gets screen time across the longest arc of the film, because she's in both the very beginning and the very end. And then the third person also probably can't be shocked that he would, at this point, be in this kind of movie. In fact, maybe he was inevitably going to be in this kind of film, is Ray Walston, who is just a kind of beloved mainstay, that guy character actor, easily best known as My Favorite Martian, the title character, who is a Martian, who is our favorite.
Okay, is that sorry. Okay, I'm gonna be dumb for a second. Is that a show or a movie?
That's
I've heard of it.
That's a show.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and he just shows up for one scene of this movie and vanishes. It doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense because he's like a very recognizable actor, and certainly would have been to the target audience of this film in 1991, and comes in to basically give a Roddy McDowall performance. Like he's not playing the way he would ordinarily play it. It's very big and campy and broad. And then he's not in the movie anymore. And I found that to just be very, very distracting.
Yeah, because he's set up as this kind like he is playing like the kind of William Castle-y guy. Like he brings all the props in. You at least expect him to pop up as a corpse in the third act. Like it just doesn't make sense how he doesn't play into this.
I actually kind of assumed he would turn out to be like one of the disguises of the killer.
Yeah, like there's just it's clearly setting up something that never got paid off, probably because this movie was a little compromised. Like or maybe they couldn't get him back. I don't know. It's mystifying.
He also has like a really complicated name, and I feel like you don't give a character a complicated name if they're only going to be in like a minute and 45 seconds of your film.
Yes, it's like Dr. Minissin?
I don't know how they pronounced it, and I think how they pronounced it is not how you should pronounce it because it is from the Greek.
Yeah, okay, I have no idea. But I think they also called him Dr. M, and I was
they
like,
called him Dr. M. Yes.
Okay, I was like, is this a Dr. Mabuza thing? Like, I don't quite know anything. I could not get a beat on what they were doing.
No, I think of all the things in this movie that feel like they must have made sense to somebody, but that is not communicated in the film. I think this character is easily the one where I was just the most kind of lost.
Absolutely. And that it feels like the perfect cameo moment, but you got to give them something else. Like that character is built to port an actor like this into the movie.
Right, exactly. And it's weird because it's such a it's writing checks that the movie doesn't seem to realize that it needed to pay off, because it's like he's the one who brings the evil footage into their worlds. He's like this big colorful figure. It's very, very strange. Yeah,
well, I mean the strange parts of the movie were the parts I responded to the most. Like
for sure. No, the scene he's in I loved because it was just so fucking weird.
Yeah. And the thing I was referencing earlier that is my second favorite thing about the movie is the fact that it was shot in Jamaica and they're trying so hard to pretend that it isn't, except when they're not. I mean, it's just very clear when they brought in I actually don't know, but I assume they had quite a few Jamaican people behind the scenes as well. Which is usually how things like that work in terms of if it was for like a tax break. I don't actually know the reasoning for why they shot in Jamaica.
Yeah, I'm currently kind of scrubbing through the names of the crew, and like none of them, I don't know, who can tell a Jamaican name from a not Jamaican name, but like they're pretty they're pretty names. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, and it's just like it is quite clear at least that when they were like, oh, we need original songs for this movie, let's see who's around, and they just found these reggae bands, and
that I think that raises the question though: did they need original songs for this movie, or were they just like, well, we've got some reggae bands lying around, so let's concoct a reason for original songs?
Yeah, maybe it was they were cheap. They wanted it would add something to the movie.
I will say this: I've been to bad movie marathons, and not one of them has had an interstitial music break in between the second and third movies.
Yeah, any music break, let alone a reggae music break in a 50s sci-fi.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't hate that this is happening, but I find it very odd.
Yeah, it is baffling. And then also there's just a thing of them filming in Jamaica where it's like let's just say the racial makeup of the cast leans very white. And the racial makeup of the group of extras that they have assembled to be part of the theater crowd leans away from that, as does Jamaica.
Yes.
So it does feel like in a lot of ways this like white crew intruding upon just Jamaicans having a good time, and that just kind of always, that friction was really interesting to me.
Okay, that's fair. I noted that friction, but it did not feel generative to me, I guess is how I would put it.
I think that's totally fair. I do love seeing the seams of a movie that's trying very hard to pretend to be something that it's not.
For sure. And that is, again, I think the performances of the music are interesting. I think the very obvious this is not LA-ness of it does feel interesting texturally to me. So like I'm not saying these are bad things, but they are very weird things. And as you say, you're seeing the seams.
Yeah, and look, that's part of why I like Prom Night 3, the most American of this Canadian franchise that has been pretending to be American.
Yes.
Like, characters have sex on an American flag in Prom Night 3.
As do we all. That's how
of
we
course.
spend our weekends here in the United States.
Yeah, sorry, I have one more to bring up. There's a movie called Absurd. It's a Joe D'Amato movie. It's a spiritual sequel to Anthropophagus.
I have not seen Absurd. I have seen Anthropophagus.
Yeah, I like Anthropophagus significantly more than Absurd, but there is a scene in Absurd which is specifically set in the U.S., I believe in a suburban town, where all of the parents are away, leaving their teens and children in danger. But the parents are away watching football, and when we cut to them, they are all cheerily watching a football game and eating big plates of spaghetti. Which I would argue is maybe not as American as they thought it was.
I mean, this is not an absurd podcast, but I feel like there's just so much richness packed into that. Because, like, what do Italians know about Americans? So we know that they know that we eat fucked up versions of their food, like spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah.
And at the same, yeah, I just love that. I need to see Absurd now.
Oh yeah, no, it's the best thing about Absurd, but you probably should see it just for you.
I should. I need to see more Joe D'Amato films in general, which is a sentence that you only say once you've completely abandoned your soul to the devil.
Absolutely, yeah. Once you've seen as many movies as you have, and you kind of get what the good movies are doing. You understand it. You've seen them. But anyway, okay, is there anything else to talk about with Popcorn?
I feel like I'm not even sure what we have already talked about with Popcorn, because it's, again, such a amorphous film. And I feel
like
we kind of
we
approach
can't go
it
through
in an
it frame
amorphous
by
way.
frame. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I didn't dislike this movie. I don't think it worked. You know, like, I think it is an obvious, even significant failure, but, like, it's got enough weird things shoved in around the edges of the frame, and even the part that's not working, like, it's a bad slasher movie to me, but it's like, it's got a lot of energy about being a bad slasher film. It's not just like a sort of late 80s slasher that's kind of grinding through because I think there's some more money to be squeezed out of it.
Yeah, that's totally right. There is somebody wanted to make this.
Yes.
If it was a cash grab, it just wouldn't be the thing that it is. I mean, maybe the problem is that Alan Ormsby wanted to make it, and then they no longer wanted him to make it. But
even I mean, again, like, that killer, love went into that killer, you know, like the scenes, the designs, the not very effective but very committed performance of the killer's gimmick. Like, this isn't a movie for which effort was expended, and I think the makeup, at least, is extremely good.
Yeah, the makeup is quite good. The spooky possessed movie is quite creepy. I found
it certainly is. I agree.
That's, other than what we've already brought up, maybe one of the most effective kind of like horror moments from the horror side of the coin.
Yes, no, it's a very good parody of, like, a type of art film. We see, like, close-ups of facial features, and they're disgusting. And the students are, like, all grossed out by the disgusting facial features, and that feels very true to life to me.
Oh, absolutely. What else? I'm just scanning through my notes. I'm like, have I missed anything? There is, okay, one of the movie's just off kilter in every way. And one of the first ways that it tells you this is in the opening credits. So it has these title cards saying what companies produced the movie. But the first title card just says A Movie Partners. And then that holds for like 5 seconds until it says production with blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I think you should not have split it up that way. It doesn't make any sense. And that really perturbed me, and that really got me off on the right foot.
No,
for Popcorn.
that's very real. I'd forgotten that happened, but that 100% does happen. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I'm glad I saw it. I guess so. They're the only thing I can still say. I didn't have a good time, but I'm glad I saw it, if that makes sense. I had a good time intermittently.
Yes, I completely agree. I think I even gave it a stronger score than you did.
I think you gave it 3 and I gave it
stars.
2.5.
Yeah, which I think is that's just the difference between us on this kind of movie.
I think so.
But honestly, the 3 stars are for the fake movies. And Jamaica. Go Jamaica.
To be clear, because the bad movies, the fake movies inside the film, very extractable, very arbitrary. Even like you could not have that happen, and the film still would function in every possible way. But it would for sure be a full half star or even a star lower in my esteem if it did not have those scenes.
Yeah, because that is part of what drives how charming it is.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would just be so flat and just wouldn't have anything to give to you other than just that kind of kooky. It's just there's not enough there.
No, but the pastiches are very, very well done.
It's mind-boggling how well done they are. But yeah, so I think in my review I said I would rather watch a full one of those, but like I want to see the movies in universe of what they are, because if somebody just made the Attack of the Amazing Electrified Man fully to be a fake funny version of it, that wouldn't be anything.
No, because we've had those, right? Like things like The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, where people do old-fashioned B movies, newly made old-fashioned B movies, and they tend to feel not very good to me.
No. So, maybe they work so well because we're just getting little glimpses, little windows into what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But still, it's incredible to get those glimpses.
It is.
And it was nice to imagine, which is what that night at the movies would have been like.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
You got any other notes?
I think I am done talking about popcorn.
I feel like it's such a strange experience. It doesn't feel like a movie happened in my house when I watched it.
No, it really doesn't. And this is kind of more what I was expecting when out of the pre-Scream 1990 slashers, just in terms of like kind of weird, cheapy movies that didn't quite fit. They were neither fish nor fowl. But it still had it had a lot of textures. I'm glad it's just, do I recommend anyone watch it? Not really. But I'm not mad about it.
No, I'm not mad about it. And I feel like if you're the kind of person who would dig on any part of this, you probably have picked that up by now, I think.
No, fair enough.
But yeah, no, I think I wouldn't, let me put it this way. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but I would certainly not talk anyone out of it.
I think that's the exact level of this movie. That's a good point. And if it was part of like something like B-Fest, like a very long movie marathon, it might kind of
I thought of, because it is B-Fest. It's basically a 3-movie version of B-Fest. But I did think, what would it be like to show this at B-Fest? Like, would it just be some sort of weird Inception, the universe like collapsing in on itself experience? I don't think I would want it at B-Fest, but I'd be curious to see how the B-Fest crowd would handle it. Yeah.
No, it exists in a pocket dimension that is all its own.
Exactly. Wild experience.
Anyway.
Very, very. I am glad I had this experience. So I guess maybe I do recommend it. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's probably more than you were maybe anticipating out of this theme of movies. Yeah. And for the record, we don't know what we're watching next, but next up on the podcast, you will be hearing the November preview. You'll be hearing me. I'm back. I'm no longer out of the country, so I can host podcasts again. So keep an ear out for that before the end of the month. You can find more episodes of this show on alternateending.com and some of Tim's reviews. Tim's writing again.
I'm writing movie reviews again. I'm actually finishing up The Summer of Blood now that it's October.
Hey, I can't think of a better time.
Exactly. And I do want to throw in one plug. If you listened to last week's episode, you know that alternate ending contributor Brian Fowler is currently temporarily out of work because of a health crisis. We do have the GoFundMe campaign that Brian is running. So if you haven't contributed to that yet, you might want to take a look at that.
Yes, absolutely. I will put the link to that in the show notes if you haven't. I highly recommend it. And I don't know. Bye.
She hates me.